Hello, hello. Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being punctual. Please sit down so that we can start. Thank you very much.
Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the 35th LDCF SCCF Council meeting. As you all know, this council focuses on GEF's two funds for adaptation to climate change, the Least Developed Countries Fund, or LDCF, and the Special Climate Change Fund, or SCCF. Dear colleagues, a few months ago, 10 countries in Asia and Europe all experienced severe flooding in a span of a couple of weeks. And in November, weeks of torrential rain displaced hundreds of thousands of people in East Africa by what was termed as once in a century flooding event. Thousands of farms were underwater, crops destroyed. This massive flooding actually came immediately after the worst drought that the same region had experienced in 40 years. Scientists are linking the unusually extreme weather with El Niño, and they say that the climate change could increase the frequency of extreme El Niño years from 1 in 20 years to 1 in 10 years. This will be truly devastating to societies and livelihoods. And that is precisely why the topic for today's meeting is so important. After this, I will say, gloomy introduction, I'm happy to say that we have good news to share regarding the LDCF and SCCF. Today, we are presenting to you one of the largest work programs for the LDCF. Also, the last time we saw an SCCF work program of this magnitude was 12 years ago, back in 2012. The total LDCF, SCCF resource request today is of $203.4 million. I'm so pleased to see how far we have come in terms of being able to enhance the delivery of critical needed adaptation funding for LDCs and SIDS. And this is thanks to many of you in this room and online today. At the past 3 UNFCCC COPs, the GEF has been organizing pledging events for the LDCF and SCCF, and we are very grateful to the donors who have been making generous contributions. I'm also thankful to our LDC and SID partners, the LDC groups and OASIS, who have been championing these funds and expressing the need for increased funding. A key observation of this work program to me is the immense demand we see for the newly focused SIDS window of SCCF, which is requesting $23 million in resources today to address the adaptation needs of 8 vulnerable SIDS in the Caribbean and in the Indian Ocean. My colleagues, dear council members, it is critical important for us to secure additional fundings in order to keep up with the very high demand. As you know, there was much discussions at COP28 on the global goal on adaptation, as well as the new collective quantified goal on climate finance, which called for the urgent need to dramatically rise the level of ambition with regards to resources for adaptation. Among all these positive decisions, the key message from the COP was clear. We cannot afford to slow down on adaptation funding, and we need to redouble our efforts to support adaptation priorities in the world's most vulnerable countries, such as LDCs and SIDS. The LDCF and SCCF are well positioned to be a catalyst for adaptation action and have worked to be a partner of choice for the less developed countries and the small island development states. This is why it is extremely heartwarming for me that COP28 guidance to the GEF highly recognize the work of the LDCF and SCCF. I was also delighted that the report of the LDC expert group presented at COP28 included a special appreciation for the GEF. And now, I would like to hand over the microphone to our esteemed new chair of the LDC group from Malawi, Mr. Evan Dabie, who is Chief Environment Officer at Environmental Affairs Department of Malawi. Congratulations to Evans, and we look forward to further enhancing our partnership with the LDC group. Evan is also the GEF alternate council member from Southern Africa constituency. So thank you, Evan. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos, the CEO and chairperson of the Global Event Facility. Good morning, distinguished council members, attorneys, and colleagues. I should have been there present myself physically, but my visa did not come out. And as I joined this meeting just a few minutes ago, I've received a call from the United States Embassy here in Lilongwe saying that my visa is ready. So I thought I would do maybe hire a supersonic jet so I could fly in 5 minutes time and be there with you physically. But I'll be with you, I think, in the next meeting. But otherwise, thank you. I would like to thank you, Mr. Carlos Rodriguez, the CEO and chairperson of the GEF, for inviting me to address the 35th Council of the Least Developed Countries Fund and the Special Climate Change Fund, SCCF and LDCF. Of course, my name is Evans Devinjewa. As you have introduced me already, I'm from Malawi, and I've been elected as the chair of the LDC group, taking over from my predecessor, Ms. Madeleine Rose Diouf Sarr of Senegal, since the beginning of this year, coming from the COP28 in Dubai. And I have the honor of chairing this group of the LDCs until end of December next year, 2025. Coincidentally, I've also been appointed, as we have heard from you, the CEO, that I'm now alternate council member for the Southern African constituency, where indeed 5 out of the 10 member states in the constituency are LDCs. My council member is there already from South Africa, from Lesotho, sorry, from Lesotho. She's there, of course, and I'm with her in spirit. It is my pleasure, therefore, to share my perspectives as chair of the LDC group at this opening session. First, I very much appreciate, of course, the positive collaboration and partnership between the LDC group and the GEF, in particular the LDCF. I am looking forward to doing my part.
Evans, may I ask you to move your camera a bit, because we can only see the top of your head, which is a little bit disconcerting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Like this?
Much better.
Okay, that's better. At least we can see your eyes now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So I'll continue from where I left. I was saying that it is my pleasure to share my perspectives as chair of the LDC group at this opening session. And first, I very much, of course, appreciate the positive collaboration and partnership between the LDC group and the GEF. In particular, of course, the LDCF, which is at the head of the LDCs. I'm looking forward, therefore, to doing my part to enhance this partnership that we have enjoyed together, as we heard from you, the CEO, and also building upon the strong momentum that my predecessors have helped to build already. This council meeting is happening, of course, at the backdrop of reports confirming the year of 2023 as not only being the warmest on record, but a world coming from dangerously close to the Paris Agreement, 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. As we heard from you, the CEO, we have had various adverse effects and impacts hitting our countries in the LDCs, in the seas as well, and the parts of Africa. As you rightly mentioned, we have seen floods, cyclones, some dry spells with us, and therefore it is crucial that the GEF support continues to contribute towards delivering, of course, climate adaptation and also resilience benefits. Second, I would like to congratulate the GEF Secretariat for organizing a very successful ministerial dialogue and a pledging session at the COP28 in Dubai. This pledge of 179.60 United States dollars million of those for the LDCF and of course the SCCF is welcomed by, of course, the Global Stocktake, which is the main outcome of the COP. This is a testimony of your leadership, Mr. Carlos, and also, of course, the work done by the Secretariat in conducting this work. I sincerely thank the donors. I would mention Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Ireland, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom in this regard. I also would want to thank the 4 other donors for expressing their political support to the LDCF and the SCCF. While the outcome of the pledging event sends the right signal, as you all know, our needs are much greater in the LDCs group. We are not there yet to meet the GF8 LDCF financial scenarios, where the countries, of course, are more than ready to submit proposals. As we will see during the work program discussion just in the next few minutes. We respectfully therefore call on the donors to recognize that the LDCF is our first choice among the climate funds due to its many unique features, and would like this the doubling of adaptation finance that we've been talking about by the year 2025 to be delivered through the LDCF. The SCF is also an important fund, given its focus, of course, on innovation and private sector engagement. The SCF's dedicated window for our colleagues in the small island states, the seeds, is well positioned in this regard to help address unique adaptation and resilience challenges faced by the seeds. We need to collectively invest in this important fund. Let me conclude in my closing remarks by mentioning that the LDCF and the SCCF are like critical life ropes for the LDCs and our 1.1 billion people in helping us to prepare for and avoid the worst impacts of climate change. My own country, Malawi, has benefited from valuable LDCF support of more than 40 million United States dollars in our adaptation efforts, and we are ready to do much more. Collectively, as the international community, we need to ensure that both the LDCF and SCF are more strongly and predictably resourced than ever and target the greatest climate adaptation impact possible. In doing so, we will be supporting shared resilience, opportunities, and prosperity for our world, the planet Earth. Thank you very much, and I look forward to a successful council meeting until we meet again in person in the next meeting. Thank you. Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you so
Back
much.
to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Evans. We regret that we don't have you over here. We wish you the best in your new responsibilities. And just, of course, the LDCF, SCCF will be extremely supportive to you and the work that you do with the LDC group. Thank you so much, Evans. With this, we'll go to our first agenda item of the 35th SCCF, LDCF, SCCF Council, with the adoption of the agenda. For this, I will ask my co-chair to lead this agenda item. Over to you, Tauda.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, distinguished council members. I'm going by the agenda, and as you may recall, a provisional agenda for consideration have been circulated to all council members as document GEF/LDCF/SCCF 3501. So in that regard, I will call on the council members to see if there are any items to be added under any other business. Yes, we got intervention from IEO that they want to add something under any other business.
The agenda is adopted.
Yeah. Any other observations? If not, then I will call on the council members to adopt the agenda, provisional agenda that is circulated before you all. There is no observation, then the agenda is adopted. Thank you very much. Yeah, please. The next item will be work program for the least developed country fund and the special climate change fund. On that, I will invite Ms. Chishuru Ayoki and Mrs. Fari Tubai to present the document GEF/LDCF SCCF 35/03. So Mrs. Chisu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to colleagues. It is my pleasure, as well as the pleasure of the team, to present to you the fifth work program for the LDCF and SCCF. This slide summarizes the key features of the work program in front of you that we're very, very happy to present to you. As the CEO in his opening remarks indicated, this is among the largest work programs for the LDCF and SCCF ever presented to you. It is requesting a total of $203.40 million. And it is serving 16 least developed countries and 8 small island developed states. And we're very happy to see a strong demand for the newly created SCCF Window A for small island development states. The work program also features example of coordination with the GCF and other funding sources. And another feature that we wanted to bring to your attention is the significant multilateral development banks, as well as IFI programming in this particular work program. For the LDCF alone, we're seeing 43% of programming done through the MDBs and IFIs in this work program. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of projects and sectors that the work program is covering. As mentioned, there are 21 projects. For the LDCF, the resource request is $180 million. For the SCCF, and this is solely for Window A FTSIs, the work program is requesting $23 million. Sectors as well as systems addressed in the projects in front of you include climate resilience agriculture, food security and fisheries, nature-based solutions in ecosystem-based approaches, water security, as well as climate information and early warning systems. And these are very well aligned with the 4 thematic and sectoral priorities for the GEF 8 LDCF and SCCF programming strategy, which you all adopted in June of 2022. In terms of the breakdown of projects per the trust funds, we're very happy to see 15 projects from the LDCF. We're also very happy to see 2 projects from the SCCF, one of which is a multi-country project. So you can do the math to figure out that we have 8 CIS, and one of them is actually clustered together as multi-country projects. And we're very pleased that there are 4 MTF, those are multi-trust fund projects. 2 of them are blending resources between the LDCF and the GEF Trust Fund, and 2 of them are blending resources between the SCCF and the GEF Trust Fund. And what's in front of you is the approval for the portion of these multi-trust fund projects that are being financed by the LDCF or SCCF. The GEF Trust Fund portion you already approved in the work program cover note, as well as decision on Monday earlier this week. In terms of the co-financing for the LDCF, the co-financing ratio, which is optional for the LDCF projects, is about approximately 5.44. For the SCCF, the co-financing ratio calculates to be about 5.6 to $1 of GEF investments. Now we will take a very quick look at the 15 projects that are being put in front of you for the LDCF work program. And these are presented in the alphabetical order. 13 of the projects in front of you are supporting African LDCs, and 2 are in the Asian LDCs. With the approval of this work program, 5 LDCs will have reached the 20 million initial cap for the GFA period. And these countries are Bhutan, Burundi, Djibouti, Rwanda, and South Sudan. I have 4 slides to show you the different projects. So this is a first slide of the projects that's in front of you in alphabetical order. Incidentally, the projects from Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, and Central African Republic, they're all coming from MDBs and IFIs. And you will also notice that for these cohort of projects, most of them are at the 10 million to 20 million range, except for one project in Laos, which I will go into. Here is the second slide that shows the 4 additional projects. These are from Ethiopia, Laos PDR, Lesotho, and Liberia. The next slide shows the projects from Malawi, Mozambique, Nepal, and Niger. And again, you will show the distribution of agencies that are active in the LDCF portfolio. And we're very happy to see a very good balance of both the geographies as well as agencies, as well as themes that are being addressed for adaptation priorities. And finally, this is the final slide for the LDCF national projects in front of you. One is from Rwanda, and we do have 2 projects from South Sudan, one by IFAD, another one by FAO. So with that, we're gonna move on to the SCCF, and I'm going to request my colleague Fariha Iqbal to present.
Thank you, Chiz. Good morning, everyone. We are now moving on to the SCCF work program. There are 2 standalone SCCF projects being supported by Window A, which supports adaptation in small island developing states, or SIDS. With approval of this work program and including the multi-trust fund projects that will be presented shortly, the number of non-LDC SIDS that will have reached the initial $3 million SCCF-A cap for GEF 8 is 7 countries. These are the 2 standalone SCCF-A projects. The first is a 5-country fisheries project spanning 5 SIDS in the Caribbean. This project has an SCCF to co-finance ratio of 1 to 7.3. The second project shown here is in the Maldives. There are also 4 multi-trust fund projects, which Chiz mentioned earlier. These blend LDCF and SCCF resources with GEF Trust Fund resources. The GEF Trust Fund portion was approved on Monday. The LDCF and SCCF portion of the funding is being presented to you for approval today. These are the 4 MTF projects. The Cambodia and Zambia projects blend resources of the LDCF with the GEF Trust Fund, and the Barbados and Dominican Republic projects blend SCCF resources with the GEF Trust Fund. These multi-trust fund projects have a focus on sustainable land management and agricultural resilience. The numbers shown on this slide are for the LDCF and SCCF portions of the project funding. This slide shows examples of how this work program addresses all of the strategic priorities of the GEF 8 LDCF SCCF strategy, namely scaling up adaptation finance, supporting technology, innovation, and private sector engagement, adopting an inclusive and whole of society approach, and supporting the adaptation needs of SIDS. In this work program, projects will aim at ensuring women's equal access to land, water, and agricultural inputs, and empowering women economically by creating employment opportunities. Each project includes specification of plans to carry out a detailed gender analysis that will serve as a basis to develop gender action plans, and each project will include a gender-responsive results framework with gender-sensitive indicators. The 21 projects proposed in the work program will collectively improve resilience of over 4.2 million beneficiaries, of whom 51% are female, improve the climate resilient management of nearly 1.6 million hectares of land and nearly 1.9 million hectares of coastal and marine area, and will support development of 273 adaptation plans and policies. These projects will also build adaptation capacity of over 585,000 people and 1,416 private and social enterprises. I will now hand back over to Chiz to present the remaining slides.
Thank you, Fariha. We just have a couple more slides, and these are on the agency distribution. Since this seems to be a topic that has been followed very closely among the council members. So the chart here presents for the LDCF, the agency distribution. And the first column shows the agency distribution of programming since the inception of the fund. So this is a 20-how-many-year history here. And what you see in the middle is a cumulative GEF 8 programming of the LDCF portion. And you will see that there is a very good balancing out, that's especially compared to the cumulative figures. And on the right, left, right? Thank you. Is the February 2024 work program. And this specifically shows you the agency distribution of projects for approval in front of you. And you will see there is a good balance as well as a very strong MDB and IFI engagement. This one is for the SCCF. Historically, although the resource outlay of the SCCF has not been as large as the LDCF, we've actually enjoyed a very good agency distribution from the cumulative figure you see first. With the introduction of the SCCF window A for SIS and the more robust programming to be expected in GEF 8, we're very happy that we've started to see interest among the SIS to submit projects, and as well as interest to look into the innovation and technology transfer window of the SCCF, which is window B. At this juncture, you will see that the size of the project portfolio, even with the inclusion of this particular work program, is fairly small. And we're expecting to do a lot more programming on the SCCF window A and SCCF window B, subject to resource availability. On the February 2024 work program, you will notice that the work program in front of you is consisting of FAO projects. This is something that we have also raised with the agency, and this is also reflective as of now of the adaptation needs as well as sectoral focus of the SIS that have decided to come and submit projects to us. So with this, we would like to thank you for your consideration, and back to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Chisu and Fariha. And on that note, I would like to invite the floor for questions and comments on the presentation put before us. So the floor is open. Seems okay.
Thank you for breaking the ice. Ramon, you have the floor.
Gracias, William. En primer lugar, quería compartir con todos que nos complace enormemente haber contribuido a estos fondos de adaptación del GEF a finales de 2023. Para nosotros la adaptación es una de las prioridades de la Estrategia Española de Financiación Internacional. Después de bastante tiempo, España ha contribuido a estos fondos y tras anunciarlo en la sesión organizada por el GEF en la COP28 en Dubái. Queremos destacar que en el contexto de la creación de nuevos fondos, como es el caso del Fondo para el Marco Global de Biodiversidad, queremos poner de manifiesto la importancia de mantener, aprovechar y sacar rendimiento a los instrumentos ya existentes. Por ello, para nosotros era una prioridad, tras haber contribuido a la reposición del GEF 8, contribuir en 2023 al Fondo para Países Menos Adelantados y al Fondo Especial de Cambio Climático. Nos alegramos de la presentación de este programa de trabajo con más de $200 millones en 21 proyectos siendo uno de los programas con más recursos asignados históricamente. Destacamos el porcentaje importante de programación que se hace a través de las IFIs y queremos destacar la importancia del nuevo rol que deben desarrollar estas instituciones, los bancos multilaterales de desarrollo, los bancos regionales, apalancando recursos y desarrollando ese rol que se les exige hacia cambios transformacionales. Y finalmente, queríamos destacar los 4 proyectos que reciben también financiación del GEF Trust Fund. Para nosotros creo que esto es importante, creemos que aporta complementariedad y da lugar a proyectos más robustos e integrales, aunando mitigación, adaptación, biodiversidad. En definitiva, creemos que es positivo tener esta visión holística a la hora de abordar los retos ambientales. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Alf, you have the floor.
Thank you. Our constituency welcomes the work program, which so far represents the largest for the LDCF and the SCCF in GEF 8. We are encouraged to see the number of LDCs requesting support from the LDCF in GEF 8 is now increasing, and we are particularly pleased to see that 9 out of the 15 SIDs that are not LDCs have now accessed the SCCF in this current period. Climate change adaptation is an important focus for Norway's international development policy. In this regard, Norway is very happy to be re-engaging with the LDCF by providing a contribution of 100 million Norwegian crowns, that's about $9 million US, to the LDCF, which we announced at the Climate COP28. We are encouraged to see the number of LDCs requesting support from the LDCF in GEF 8 is now increasing. Oh, I think I'm repeating myself. Sorry. As already mentioned, improving the coverage of climate information and early warning systems is a key priority area for us, and we therefore welcome the number of projects that contributes to this objective. We do similarly encourage coordination with EW4All initiative and its participating countries where possible. And we do also encourage the GEF to engage with partners in this field who have been supporting preparedness capacities and anticipatory action at the local level, particularly in fragile and conflict-affected settings. Some specific questions. 7 out of the 18 GEF agencies are represented in this work program. Is the GEF Secretariat actively reaching out to GEF agencies and OFPs in order to increase the number of GEF agencies involved in LDCF projects? How do LDCF projects compare to GEF Trust Fund projects when it comes to gender focus? Would it be possible for the LDCF work program cover note to include a section on policy coherence? And we are pleased to read about the close collaboration with the GCF, also in terms of scaling up finance. And we were wondering, how is the collaboration with the GCF with the Adaptation Fund? We have also previously encouraged the GEF to take risk finance, including insurance, into consideration in project design to ensure that climate risk management is sufficiently built into projects. We are pleased to see incorporated into the project in Zambia. We welcome the LDCF, GCF collaboration in Rwanda. Finally, it would be good to have a bit of information about the executing partners in terms of whether they are all government entities or a mix, and would like to know if a section on this could be included in the work plan. We will be sending in written comments to the GEF Secretariat within the deadline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andre, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Switzerland welcomes the proposed 35th work program for the LDCF and SCCF, 2 funds of high relevance in our eyes. We commend LDCF and SCCF for the well-balanced agency distribution in the work program and hope that this will continue and maybe also spread to other funds. However, we noticed that the regional distribution seems to be a bit less balanced, with, for example, 87% of SCCF going into the LAC region. And we hope that the Secretariat could also work on a better balance here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Faisal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The GEF CSO network having reviewed document GEF LDCF SCCF 3503 on the work program, makes the following observations for kind consideration of the Council. We're happy to see that this work program presents 21 projects with LDCF financing of 180 million in Asia and Africa, and SCCF financing of 23 million focused on 6 SIDS in Caribbean plus the Maldives. We're also happy to note it is the largest work program in 12 years, but we're concerned that this fact indicates that the level of funding provided to LDCF and SCCF is not enough. We thus encourage more contributions to the 2 funds. We're happy to see that almost all projects proposed have a major focus on community engagement and resilience enhancement. We hope that a participatory approach will be taken to the project design with effective engagement of stakeholders, including civil society, indigenous people, and local communities for the design and implementation of all of the projects. We have looked a little bit more detail at the SCCF projects in SIDS and have some concerns that we hope can be addressed in the design stage. Firstly, the projects do sound innovative and necessary, but the descriptions appear very similar to previous interventions on climate smart agriculture, food security initiatives, increased value chain in agriculture, development of cottage industries to include livelihood for farm families, and development of community farmer cooperatives. During the design phase, it should be determined how these projects can be successful when earlier ones seem not to have produced the desired outcomes or were not sustainable. Secondly, in many SIDS, there are structural and systemic factors constraining the success of adaptation and food security initiatives. Policy coherence and collective action on these major social issues do not happen overnight, and the information is not contained in the document to suggest that the basis for collective action is already in place in recipient countries. Thirdly, in addition, some of the recipient countries routinely undertake action, such as placing housing for communities in floodplains and adjacent to coastal wetlands, removal of mangroves, placement of commercial economic activities in ecological sensitive areas that reduce climate resilience and/or increase vulnerability of communities. These risks need to be considered during the design phase. The network is currently in the process of reviewing further technical aspects and the level of stakeholder engagement in the PIFs and design documents for other projects included in the current work plan, and will submit written comments in the near future.
Thank you very much. Kat, you have the floor.
Oui, je vais faire mon intervention en français. D'abord, le Canada remercie le secrétariat pour le plan de travail. Je voudrais aussi rappeler que le Canada a récemment annoncé à la COP28 un investissement de 34,2 millions de dollars canadiens pour le Fonds spécial pour les changements climatiques. Le Canada est particulièrement intéressé par les projets qui visent à contribuer à l'augmentation du financement en matière d'adaptation en mobilisant des fonds supplémentaires, tout en étant aligné avec les besoins et les priorités des communautés et des pays récipiendaires. Comme certains de mes collègues, nous appuyons la coordination entre le FEM et le Fonds vert pour le climat. Et donc, c'est intéressant de lire qu'il y a plusieurs projets comme au Cambodge, Éthiopie, Caraïbes qui bénéficient de cofinancement et d'appui conjoint. Et que pour le Rwanda, le projet va contribuer à la vision à long terme sur la complémentarité avec le Fonds vert pour le climat. Finalement, le Canada apprécie aussi le travail d'analyse et les efforts du secrétariat et des agences pour intégrer les questions d'égalité des genres et du renforcement des femmes et des filles. Et puis, on encourage vraiment des plans d'action qui soient chiffrés et puis des experts qui soient dédiés à la planification et au suivi de l'intégration de l'égalité des genres. Et puis, s'il y a lieu, on apprécierait voir un peu d'informations sur les consultations avec les peuples autochtones, si approprié. Merci.
Merci Catherine. On continue en français avec Stéphanie, s'il vous plaît.
Exactement. Bonjour à tous. Je voudrais d'abord remercier évidemment tous pour la préparation de ce groupe de travail et de ce programme de travail. Mais avant ça, rappeler que le LDCF est pour nous, pour la France, un rouage clé du pacte de Paris pour les peuples et la planète et du pacte de Glasgow pour le climat. Il cible exclusivement les pays vulnérables aux effets du changement climatique et les rend plus résilients. Depuis sa création, la France a contribué à 85 millions de dollars au fonds LDCF pour soutenir son rôle essentiel pour les pays et les communautés les plus vulnérables. À la COP 28 à Dubaï, nous avons annoncé une contribution historique de 35 millions d'euros pour la période 2024-2026. Pour revenir au programme de travail, nous remercions le secrétariat, les OFP, les Implementing Agencies, les Executing Agencies pour cet exceptionnel programme de travail en nombre de projets et en volume financier. Nous apprécions en particulier les critères de sélection expliqués pour le LDCF et le SCCF. Également le premier projet régional pour le SCCF, ainsi que la coordination avec le Fonds vert, comme l'ont rappelé nos collègues. Nous partageons aussi la demande d'ALF sur l'information sur les Executing Agencies, ainsi que sur, si possible, un encadré sur le Policy Coherence. Vous nous avez donné l'envie avec le programme de travail du GEF. Et enfin, je rejoins également le Canada sur la demande, quand il y a lieu, sur des informations sur l'association des IPLCs à la préparation des projets. Merci.
Merci. Prabhas, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. This is the one of the issue I have to raise regarding the 2024 work program. Maldives has been selected for the SSFP project. However, the GEF has selected the implementing agency with unilaterally. So Maldives has raised this issue at the consensus meeting. This is for the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Karen, you have the floor.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Sweden supports a council approval of the work program. We are very happy to see a very ambitious work program, and we understand that the GEF Secretariat has put in a lot of work in outreach, capacity building and visibility. And we would like to commend the Secretariat in its efforts to ensure this sizable work program. Sweden was happy to be able to announce an additional contribution to LDCF at COP28 of 100 million Swedish kronor. So in total for 2023, we were able to contribute 230 million Swedish kronor. Very happy about that, and also hearing about others' contributions is really encouraging. I'd like to raise a few issues on distribution of LDCF resources by agency. We especially welcome the share of MDBs and IFIs in the LDCF work program. And a question could be what lessons can be learned to inspire also GBFF and GEF portfolios going forward. Also, as has been mentioned by others, it's encouraging to see examples of GEF collaboration in the work program. In relation to LDCF co-financing, we would like to encourage GEF to explore how to increase the private sector's share as providers of co-financing. And on gender, Sweden welcomes the work with gender responsive results frameworks and indicators. What gets measured gets done. We especially appreciate the Secretariat's push for developing gender action plans that are budgeted. Finally, maybe a somewhat detailed comment, but it's encouraging to see that age disaggregated data for core indicators 1 and 4 will be used throughout the project cycle. This will enable better follow-up. And we hope that this can be replicated and used in the GEF and GBFF program portfolio as well. With regards to the project proposal for Burkina Faso, Sweden, given the worrying political developments, would like to underline the centrality to closely follow the operational integrity of the project and ensure due diligence throughout the implementation phase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sam, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. We welcome this work programme, in particular the $23 million of projects within the SCCF SIDS window, the first significant work programme for this new window. It's great to see many Caribbean SIDS coming forward with projects and working together, and encourage more countries in the Pacific to come forward with project proposals for this new window. Like others have said, and across the work programme in its entirety, it's great to see high levels of co-financing and IFI engagement in implementation, as well as examples of the GEF and GCF working together at the project level. However, support from the private sector remains low, as Karen mentioned, and it would be great to see projects come forward in future work programmes with strong private sector engagement to leverage more finance and to support the durability of programme objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex from the US, you have the floor.
Yes, hi, thank you. On a brief personal note, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alex with the United States. It's my first council meeting, and I look forward to meeting those of you that I haven't already today. First of all, thank you to the Secretariat and to everybody who helped put together this work program. It's really great to see such an incredible number of impactful projects here in front of us today. And I echo many of the comments said by my colleagues here to this effect. I'll try to be brief with just 3 points. First, the United States would like to ask for a second review of Project 11447 in Liberia. We would like to better understand how the project plan and risk assessment will change in light of the recent election. Second, the United States would request that the following statement be reflected in the written record of the council meeting, which states, the United States, in light of its policies for certain development projects in countries whose governments are not addressing trafficking in persons and have engaged in a pattern of gross violations of internationally recognized human rights, opposes and therefore does not join a council decision that would support LDCF projects 11322 and 11418 in South Sudan. And then lastly, we'll plan to send in feedback and any technical comments on the projects in writing in advance of the March 6th deadline, but just wanted to kind of reiterate a lot of the comments said by those already today on the scale of the work program in front of us and how exciting it is to see it grow. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, William, and thanks very much for all the very, very interesting information. Germany contributed 29 million euros last November to the LDCF and 10 million euros to the SCCF. So we very much welcome the work program this year. After initial year of modest programming, the third work program now for the LDCF and SCCF received a very high volume of concepts for review. So it's much appreciated. This increased activity in our view shows both the relevance of the LDCF and SCCF. So that's excellent. Germany further welcomes the fact that the 8 SIDS included in the work program are accessing the SCCF for the first time. For the LDCF, 14 out of the 16 LDCs with projects included in this work program are also accessing the LDCF resources for the first time. We encourage those countries who have not yet accessed funding but who are eligible to engage and make good use of the available funding. The balanced agency contribution of the work distribution of the work program is recognized for the LDCF funds project and much appreciated. Given the historically large share of project funding held by the UNDP, which was 45%, we would like to encourage the GEF Secretary to continue balancing the involvement of the agencies to benefit from the different agencies' unique strengths. We understand that for the SCCF, there has only been one agency involved, which is FAO. And we do acknowledge that there are circumstances explaining this, and we totally appreciate that, but also see an opportunity to possibly involve further GEF agencies if possible. During the 34th council meeting, Germany highlighted the opportunity to, that's a long time ago, highlighted the opportunity to increase the share of MDBs in LDCF operations. We therefore welcome the increased share of MDBs involvement in LDCF operations, which rose from only 18% to now over 40%. And we wonder if there's a lesson learned for the GEF Trust Fund and the GBFF. Germany only has technical concerns about the LDCF project in Zambia and requests the GEF Secretariat to send draft final project documents for council review. Our concern is really that there's neither a project rationale nor a theory of change included in the PIF. And so key aspects of the project couldn't be assessed by us. Further, the PIF lacks an identification of the systemic barriers, as well as a description of how they would be addressed by the project. It is also noted there has not been any consultation with CSOs and local community organizations. Therefore, we would like to request to include the theory of change in the final project proposal and clarify interlinkages between outcomes and barriers, as well as outline the stakeholder engagement in the project development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Q, you have the floor.
Thank you, Willem. First of all, we'd like to thank the Secretariat for the presentation of the work program. And we appreciate the support provided to the LDCs and SEEDs through these two funds. Given my constituency's vulnerability to climate change, we welcome the large number of policies that will be developed or updated and implemented to ensure that we reduce our vulnerability and increase our adaptive capacities through this work program. We would like to urge our SEEDs and our LDCs to strengthen our enforcement of these policies. As we know from experience in our countries that very good policies becoming ineffective because of weak enforcement. Lastly, as mentioned by other members, we would welcome more participation of the private sector in the subsequent work programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Baba Adram, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, William. Bonjour à tout le monde. Je voudrais, à la suite de mes collègues, me réjouir également de ce programme de travail sur le fonds des paiements et le fonds spécial sur les changements climatiques. Et surtout, féliciter le secrétariat du FEM pour son leadership et tous les efforts qui sont faits pour mobiliser des fonds à mettre à la disposition des pays les moins avancés, mais également les petits États insulaires en développement. Nous avons suivi avec beaucoup d'attention toutes les activités qui sont menées, notamment pendant les conférences des parties sur le climat, pour informer les parties prenantes des pays les moins avancés pour davantage les capacités et leur permettre de préparer des projets à soumettre au fonds des paiements. Et le programme que nous avons le plaisir d'examiner aujourd'hui entre dans ce cadre et montre encore une fois tous les efforts qui sont en train d'être faits. Comme vous le savez, la circonscription que j'ai l'honneur de représenter, qui est la circonscription du Sahel, est constituée essentiellement de PMA, des pays qui sont très fortement impactés par les changements climatiques et qui sont en train de faire de leur mieux pour s'adapter à ces effets. Donc, je suis vraiment très heureux de constater que dans le programme de travail qui est proposé aujourd'hui, Certains pays de notre circonscription y figurent et cela permettra, de mon point de vue, d'aider les communautés de ces pays qui sont impactés par les changements climatiques à développer des stratégies de résilience au changement climatique. Je voudrais également remercier l'ensemble des pays donateurs qui se sont manifestés lors des dernières COP, lors des sessions de renflouement du fonds PMA, ces pays qui ont bien voulu mettre des ressources à notre disposition pour nous permettre justement de dérouler les projets que nous avons financés. Et c'est ce travail qui a permis aujourd'hui d'avoir au moins des allocations de 20 millions de dollars pour l'ensemble des pays, ce qui est une grande première pour le fonds des PMA et que nous saluons à sa juste valeur. Je voudrais enfin suggérer de mettre en cohérence les projets que nous finançons dans le cadre du LDCF avec notamment les priorités nationales et particulièrement les projets et les programmes qui sont identifiés dans les différents plans nationaux d'adaptation au changement climatique. Parce que de notre point de vue, ça permettra de mettre en adéquation les fonds qui sont reçus des mécanismes financiers de la Convention 4 des Nations Unies sur les changements climatiques et les besoins qui sont réellement exprimés par les pays à travers leurs documents de planification sur l'adaptation. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Et on finit en français avec Jeanne. Vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur William. Mon collègue a dit l'essentiel, mon collègue du Sahel a dit l'essentiel. Bien sûr, je représente la circonscription ouest africaine, donc en complément du Sahel, bien sûr. Alors, je ne vais pas le répéter, mais c'est heureux de le dire parce que le document que qu'on vient de partager avec nous a beaucoup ciblé les PMA et notamment un nombre important de pays africains. Et c'est à saluer et je porte cette voix. Je me suis retrouvée, j'ai retrouvé plusieurs pays de la côte ouest africaine qui ont été pris en compte et j'apprécie la qualité de ce programme qui a fait ce regard et cette facilité, apporter cette facilité pour prendre effectivement les pays vulnérables, les pays qui sont les mieux impactés par les effets pervers des changements climatiques. Alors, je salue le secrétariat, également les membres du secrétariat pour cet effort qui est fait. Je loue également l'orientation, la précision qui est apportée pour que le genre soit évalué, effectivement, pour que le plan d'action au niveau de chaque projet soit une réalité pour faciliter l'évaluation du genre, la prise en compte du genre dans la mise en œuvre des projets LDC. Je ne vais pas faire le discours. Nous savons les réalités qui sont les nôtres en Afrique, où bon, c'est l'homme qui est prédominant. Je parle du genre homme-femme. Donc, c'est l'homme qui est prédominant, mais quand il s'agira de trouver, d'avoir des outils précis pour pouvoir approcher la question, on pourra faire l'éclairage, un meilleur éclairage sur le genre féminin. Je suis avec mes collègues et nous engageons à accompagner les membres du comité pour que les différents projets que soient une réalité sur le terrain. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. And I believe IPAG has requested the floor. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias por esta oportunidad. Realizo esta intervención a nombre del Grupo Asesor de Pueblos Indígenas del GEF, conocido como IPAG. El Acuerdo París reconoce el rol de los pueblos indígenas y comunidades locales y afirma que la adaptación debe basarse y guiarse por los mejores conocimientos científicos disponibles disponibles y según proceda por los conocimientos tradicionales, los conocimientos de los pueblos indígenas y los sistemas de conocimientos locales. Por ello, para la implementación del Fondo de Adaptación como IPAC, consideramos que es muy importante que se consideren las contribuciones de los conocimientos tradicionales de los pueblos indígenas, que se asegure que en todos los proyectos que se van a financiar se respetan los derechos de los pueblos indígenas, que se desarrolle un mecanismo de apoyo directo como mecanismo de respuesta rápida y que estos deben ser alineados o considerando o basados en las prioridades identificadas por los pueblos indígenas y las comunidades locales. Que se asegure también la participación plena y efectiva, particularmente de las instituciones representativas de los pueblos indígenas y las comunidades locales en los procesos de toma de decisión. Con estas acciones consideramos que los objetivos para los que fue creado el Fondo de Adaptación podrá alcanzar excelentes resultados con las contribuciones de los pueblos indígenas. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. I now hand back to the floor.
Thank you very much, Secretary William. And now I will pass the floor to Chisu to respond to some of those concerns raised or comments. Yeah. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, as well as thank you for comments from the council members as well as stakeholders. And first and foremost, I would like to thank you for the warm words of encouragement as well as support for the work program. And I think it's obviously an effort of countries themselves as well as agencies, and with the strong engagement of our partners as well as the Secretariat. So I just want to acknowledge the contributions being made. And none of this is possible until and unless we have the resources to support the projects. So special thanks to those who already voice your commitments, and they include Spain, Norway, United Kingdom, France, Canada, Germany, Sweden, and Switzerland. And we'll have a little bit more of a briefing on what's going on in terms of the financial situation in the progress report later in this in the LDCF SCCF Council. So to answer some of the questions that have been raised, I think there were quite a number of good comments coming back on the share of the IFIs and MDVs in the programming. We have started to look into this, and obviously at the end of the day, it also is a match between what the objectives and priorities of the countries as well as the fund and what the agencies can provide. So we're also looking into clarifying some of that a little bit better. And we very much appreciate the comments on the complementarity between the two funds and the GEF Trust Fund. We do believe this is one of the unique advantages of the GEF family of funds, and we're very happy to see very robust projects and cross-cutting programs that are being proposed by countries, taking advantage of the ability to touch into the various funds. There was a question of the agency distribution. I just wanted to highlight that we do have regular interactions, task forces with the agencies, but we also started to make more of an effort to have regional workshops where we're also inviting agencies to showcase good practices, and we do learning clinics so that the countries are also aware of the agencies as well as what kinds of successful projects and programs are out there. That said, I also would like to highlight that at the current structure of the LDCF and SCCF, our focus is obviously on Africa and Asian LDCs and CIDs and countries that are looking to engage in adaptation, technology transfer, as well as innovation. So with that in mind, some of the agencies within the 18 agency structure might not have the comparative advantage in the regions as well as themes we cover. It's just the reality of the current situation of the two funds as well as the very targeted scope that we can provide. Nevertheless, we're making efforts to make sure that countries themselves have the information as well as updated contacts, if you will, as well as good examples to help inform as they plan their utilization of the LDCF and SCCF resources. There was a number of questions on the policy coherence, and I wanted to highlight that within the results framework of the LDCF and SCCF, we are actually tracking policy elements. There is a core indicator on policy, and there are sub-indicators under there that are more relevant on issues related to coordination, coherence, as well as sectoral interventions. So one of the things we can do is, as we get, we can highlight these things in as appropriate in the work program, but we can also look into highlighting some of those, for instance, in the annual monitoring report, because those are the elements I do think that you get more information on what's actually happening on the ground. What you see in the PIF is basically what countries and projects are proposing to do, as opposed to having the checks on, as well as reports on what's happening. Thank you for the comments on the risk finance and project design. Germany raised the issue with the Zambia project. Well taken. We will reflect on those, and I'll work with the agencies. And we did work on these issues, but we acknowledge some of the comments you have raised in terms of the need for additional stakeholder engagement consultations. We also thank you for the comments on the regional distribution, the SCCF and agencies. We are working very closely. I mean, this council was a very good opportunity to also discuss with some agencies and countries to really encourage their engagement in the SCCF programming. We are also keen to do what we can for the technology transfer and innovation window, thanks to donors that have contributed some resources to it, because that might also enable us to do projects and programming above and beyond the SIDS in the SCCF, which we think is very important. Thank you for also the reflections on the coordination between GEF and GCF in Rwanda. Since we do have additional countries in the pilot investment planning, we will continue to make sure that the elements of collaboration between the funds will come across very strongly. And I think there was a question regarding Maldives. Our understanding is what's being presented in front of you for the national project. The agency has been selected by the country and endorsed by the OFP. Perhaps there is another issue that had to do with the regional initiative that's not being considered in this particular work program. And I do understand that issue has been undergoing consultations to clarify.
Yeah, just stepping in. This is Fariha again. There was a question from Norway on whether we are coordinating with the Adaptation Fund and how. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the 5-country Caribbean fisheries project in this work program that actually is actively coordinating with the Adaptation Fund in addition to the GCF and exploring synergies.
Thank you, Fariha. Just to close, I also wanted to acknowledge with appreciation for the comments from Baba Drame as well as Jeanette. And also, we do also understand the need to align our interventions with the priorities that are being articulated within the UNCCC process. We will continue to do that. And finally, on the comments from IPAC, we're actually quite encouraged that the share of projects that are focusing on the whole of society as well as local level engagement has increased, and we will make sure that there is even more enhanced participation of this engagement of all stakeholders, including indigenous peoples and local communities. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chizu. At this point, I would like to ask the distinguished council members to adopt draft decision GEF GEF/LDCF/SCCF 35/03. Having no concerns, so the decision is adopted. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Co-Chair and dear council members. I would like to remind everyone here that last year, as we were able to allocate some budget, last year we had our first field trip for the council. The initial idea was to visit LDCF and SCCF projects. But based on the fact that we were having our council meeting in Brazil, we took advantage of that unique opportunity to do a field trip in the Amazon, in the state of Amazonas. This year, I'm thinking once more the idea of putting together a field trip for council to visit LDCF and SCCF projects. And in a matter of a few weeks, I will be sharing with all of you some draft ideas on where and what we can do. It is extremely important that a potential field trip will allow us to really engage with the stakeholders at the field level that operates. And I will welcome advice and counsel on the topics of interest of council members and a potential field trip that most probably will happen after this summer. But I just want to take the opportunity that you all are approving a very interesting work program in LDCF, SCCF, to let everybody know that I haven't forgot about that. And I'm very excited to continue providing opportunity for council members to see firsthand the realities of projects that are implemented and be able to be close to the operational focal point, to the political focal points, and many other relevant stakeholders. This will give us a much deeper understanding on how we do it and the challenges that we confront. But once more, your counsel and advice on how we can craft, design this kind of initiatives is highly appreciated. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair, for that perspective. I will now go to agenda item 4, which is an annual monitoring review of the list development. Okay.
So, no, it's
not Gabriela.
Thank you. Yes. Andre, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlos. I think that's really a great idea. We just would like to point out that it would absolutely make sense to organize such a field trip back to back with international meetings so that we can reduce travel efforts and our footprint. And maybe one idea could be that it would be organized during the COP, the climate COP in Baku, Azerbaijan, on the free day of the negotiations, so that we can really make the best out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier on, we now go to agenda item 4, which is the annual monitoring review of the least developed countries and special climate change fund for the fiscal year 2022. So on that note, I would like to invite Mrs. Jisu Ayoki and Mr. Yuki Singer to present document GEF/LDCF SCF 35/04. So the floor is yours, Mrs. Kitchen.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I would like to introduce the document, which is fiscal year 22 annual monitoring review. Now, those of you who are wondering, why are we looking at fiscal year 22 at this point? Just to remind, this particular report was supposed to be discussed at the June 2023 council, and we ran out of time. And so there was a decision to defer this particular item to this council. So we're presenting it right now. And that means you will see the next annual monitoring report fairly soon at the next council. So this review describes the performance and results, as well as lessons learned from the portfolio projects and programs that are financed under the LDCF and SCCF, and the portfolio projects that have begun implementation on or before June 30th, 2021, and that were under implementation during at least part of the fiscal year 2022. Let me start by highlighting some key messages from the report, and there are 4 of them. The first message is that active SCCF and LDCF portfolios are progressing quite well. And this is being presented to you in terms of the satisfactory progress in terms of the development objectives, as well as implementation progress ratings. The second message is that the SCCF portfolio in particular has demonstrated a very high level of achievement. And this trend of high performance ratings and results continue since the past several years of annual monitoring review. The third key message that we would like to highlight is that in terms of risk, we have found overall improvements on the fiscal year 22 ratings compared to fiscal year 21. However, COVID-19 and its negative impacts are still being felt across the portfolio as a whole, and COVID-19 as a risk factor is widely included and referenced in the implementation documents, particularly in those of higher risk projects. And we will go into a little bit more detail in this presentation. Now I'm going to ask my colleague, Yuki Shiga, who is the principal author of this report, to present to you the contents. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair and Chi-san. It is my pleasure to present rest of the fiscal year 2022 annual monitoring review of the LDCF and the SCCF. The GEF Secretariat received reports for 74 LDCF projects. The total LDCF project financing, excluding agency fees and PPGs, amounted to $447 million. Of the project financing committed, $257 million, or 57%, have been dispersed. Agriculture, natural resource management, and coastal zone management were the top 3 sectors covered under LDCF projects, together contributing to approximately 70%, or nearly $310 million of the total project financing committed. And in terms of regional distribution, 75% of LDCF funding for project under implementation have been committed towards projects in Africa, while 22% have been committed towards Asia and the Pacific, and 2% to Latin America and Caribbean. Performance. 81% of the LDCF project in the active portfolio were rated moderately satisfactory or higher in terms of their progress towards development outcomes. And 74% were rated moderately satisfactory or higher in their implementation progress. Overall ratings have remained stable at the high level over the recent years. Active LDCF project in fiscal year 2022 has generated more than 2 million direct beneficiaries and trained over 163,000 people in various aspects of climate change adaptation, of which 51% and 50%, respectively, are female. Through LDCF finance projects, an estimated 407,000 hectares of land have been brought under more resilient management. Moreover, 328 policies and plans in LDCs have been strengthened or developed to mainstream climate resilience. Next, moving on to SCCF. Under the SCCF, the GEF Secretariat received reports for 20 projects. Total SCCF project financing, excluding agency fees and PPG, towards these projects amounted to $99 million. Of the project grants committed, $53 million, or 54%, have been dispersed. Agriculture, water resource management, and infrastructure were the top three sectors covered under SCCF projects, together contributing more than 75% or $75 million of the total project financing committed. And in terms of regional distribution, Latin America and Caribbean and Africa each received about 33% of the funding commitments. Asia and the Pacific received about 25%, and Eastern Europe and Central Asia received about 7%. 90% of the SCCF project in the active portfolio were rated moderately satisfactory or higher in terms of their progress towards development outcomes. And 90% were also rated moderately satisfactory or higher in their implementation progress. Overall, SCCF ratings have remained stable at a very high level over the recent years. Moving on to results. As at June 30, 2022, cumulative results of the SCCF portfolio already included more than 6.7 million direct beneficiaries and over 125,000 people trained in various aspects of climate change adaptation. Through SCCF finance projects, an estimated 6.8 million hectares of land have been brought under more resilient management. Moreover, 587 policies and plans have been strengthened or developed to mainstream climate resilience. Next, I'd like to share these snapshots of the terminal evaluations, risk analysis, as well as lessons learned. In fiscal year 2022, 12 TEs or terminal evaluations from LDCF and 6 TEs from SCCF were submitted, along with trackable achievements in climate adaptation indicators. Overall, the data indicates that good progress is recorded at the TE stage. The result achievement ratio of the LDCF projects exceeded the targets set at the approval or endorsement stage for 2 core indicators, namely number of direct beneficiaries and area of land managed for climate resilience. Meeting the target for policies and plans has faced challenges, including prolonged process in receiving the signature from authorities and political changes. As for SCCF projects, 6 projects has exceeded all targets, except for the number of direct beneficiaries, which still attain the fair achievement ratio of 80%. The risk levels faced by LDCF and SCCF project combined were reported as low or moderate for 83% of the projects. This is an improvement from previous year, which was 78%. Overall, SCCF project reported less risk compared to LDCF projects. While 80% of LDCF project reported low or modest risk, approximately 95% of SCCF project rated their risk as low or modest. As LDCF is specifically for ADCs and SCCF is for any developing country, this difference in risk ratings highlight more challenges faced amongst LDCs. Risk ratings has improved from the fiscal year 2021 previous year, when more than 20% of the project reported they are faced with high or substantial risk. However, the analysis suggests that the negative impact of COVID-19 is still being felt across the LDCF and SCCF portfolio as a whole. COVID-19 as a risk factor is still widely included in implementation documents, particularly in those of higher risk projects. Of the project considered in this review, 5 were rated highly satisfactory in terms of their progress towards development objectives. Some of the key factors identified in these project documents were overall reduction in risks associated with the COVID-19. This is contributing to get project back on the track. Strong community engagement and buy-in. These are critical in generating tangible results on the ground in a sustainable manner. Participation and empowerment of women, particularly in decision-making, are contributing to the success of the projects. Market access and income generation. This is also the key to enhance the resilience of the community while boosting the local development. This concludes the presentation of fiscal year 2022 AMR of the LDCF and SCCF. And I'd like to once again thank the chair and Chiz-san for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kisu and Yuki, for this brilliant presentation. And now I would like to open the floor for questions and comments from the honorable council members. The floor is open.
Thank you. Faisal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The GEF CSO Network welcomes the annual monitoring report of LDCF SCCF for financial year 2022. We are happy to see that there is a section within the report on gender and stakeholder engagement, which includes various good practice examples. We believe that in future, it will be useful to compile this experience and make it available to support adaptation projects supported both by LDCF, SCCF, as well as other funds. We're also happy to note that the strong community engagement and buy-in, as well as women empowerment, were identified as key success factors for highly rated projects. And we believe that this should therefore be a key guide to future project design to incorporate these two elements. However, in future reports, we believe it would also be helpful if the reports included more statistical information on gender and civil society engagement rather than just good practice examples. It would also be useful to indicate the level of resources provided directly to Indigenous people and local communities, Indigenous people organization, and civil society organizations. Finally, we would like to comment on the use of additional assessment methods. Given the intersectionality of adaptation projects, assessment should be based on reviews of process, outcome, sustainability, and impact. The report indicates that the review is limited due to the dependence on project implementation reports, medium-term reviews, and terminal evaluations. In the future, maybe the Secretariat can consider to gather information such as ex-post multi-stakeholder evaluation to provide more in-depth feedback in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andre, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Switzerland welcomes the annual monitoring review and would like to thank the Secretariat for its preparation. We are pleased to note the general satisfaction with the portfolio on the implementation, and we are also pleased to see the higher than expected co-financing rate, particularly in the case of the SCCF. In this context, we believe the lessons regarding effectiveness of stakeholders, in particular SMEs and other private sector actors, as well as of value chains approaches, are particularly important, and we hope that they will be increasingly integrated in LDCF and SCCF projects in the future. We further note the greater diversity of implementing agencies in the case of the SCCF, and are wondering if there are any lessons the GEF Secretariat can draw to reduce agency concentrations where they occur. And finally, in our view, the project risk analysis in the report could be a bit more informative and be linked to the recently approved risk appetite statement and framework and risk-based management at the GEF more generally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stephanie, you have the floor.
Merci, je vais m'exprimer en français. Nous remercions le secrétariat pour ce document qui analyse la performance des deux fonds. La France soutient particulièrement le travail du FEM dans son portefeuille LDCF en Afrique, ainsi que la large palette d'implications sectorielles afin de cibler la vulnérabilité au changement climatique dans ces pays vulnérables sous différents angles. Nous saluons l'évaluation réalisée par l'unité d'évaluation indépendante qui souligne les très bonnes performances du portefeuille d'activités en cours et l'atteinte de nombreux objectifs de développement. En revanche, nous aimerions avoir des éléments supplémentaires concernant la performance plus faible des projets sous exécution du PNUD, qui apparaît bien inférieure aux autres agences de mise en œuvre. La justification de la pandémie du Covid, pour nous, ne peut pas expliquer à elle seule cette tendance aujourd'hui en 2024. Et je fais référence à la figure 6 du rapport. Merci.
Merci, Stephanie. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you. On the SSCF, we note the high co-financing ratio and high IFI engagement accompanied with very strong results. When compared to the GEF Trust Fund projects, we see much higher ratings for the SCCF projects for both development objectives and implementation, which is great, but we would welcome any reflections from the GEF Secretariat as to why this might be. We also note the small proportion of funds to SIDS, only 13% during the reporting period, which reinforces the value of the dedicated SIDS window. On the LDCF, we recognise the higher risk ratings reflect the challenges facing projects working in these areas. And as Andre mentioned, providing the risk framework as context for this analysis would be helpful in future reports. We also welcome the gender balance in the beneficiaries for the LDCF. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, William, and also thanks very much for the monitoring report. We welcome the annual monitoring review, and we're pleased to see a high rate of satisfactory ratings across the LDCF and SCCF. At the same time, we would appreciate additional information and reasoning for those projects that did not receive satisfactory ratings. With regards to the private sector involvement in the LDCF and especially SCCF, of course, we would really be interested in more information on how the higher MDB involvement might actually help to secure higher private sector involvement. If you have any information on that, that would be very highly appreciated. And finally, Germany would like to request additional information on the significant decrease in the number of direct beneficiaries of projects within the LDCF, dropping from 8.5 million in financial year 21 to 2.1 million this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Laura Rajanyam, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, William. We would also like to thank for the very useful monitoring report and also for the useful results. Our constituency has also been supporting the LDCF with almost 100 million euros over the past years. So of course, this is also very, very important fund for us. And we're also very happy to report positively back to our parliaments and societies about the results. We also welcome the gender mainstreaming efforts in projects under the implementation in the LDCF and SCCF. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other requests for the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. And I would like now to call on Chisu to reflect on the comments raised by the distinguished council members.
Thank you so much, Mr. Co-Chair, and thank you for the comments as well as reflections. First, in response to the comments from the Faisal, and appreciate your appreciation of the report as well as coverage. And I also take note that I think you as well as several others wanted to see a little bit more analytical information reflected in the report. And a few of you mentioned that the risk analysis, so we'll of course take that into consideration for the next one. In terms of the question that is, as well as comment made on the effectiveness of private sector value chain approach, I think this was Switzerland's comment. And we do think that this is one of the factors that was also highlighted in the lessons learned from projects that receive very highly satisfactory ratings. And we will continue to look into this particular element of it. Comments from Stephanie from France. Thank you for your good comments on this. In terms of the information on the weakest and the projects that might not be performing so well, what we have done historically is to try to look into the specific cases of projects that in that particular cohort did not receive good ratings. And we have then tried to go and extract information and to represent here, but also go back to the agencies to ask about, what is going on, and in an effort to see if there are any measures that would need to be taken, and to also really understand better what the current status is, because there's usually a little bit of a delay between the submission analysis and the report coming here. So that's one point I wanted to highlight, that there is a little bit of a system to look more into the specific cases that arise. And also on your question of the ratings, as well as the variation in the ratings among the agencies that you pointed out, I do believe this was also an issue that was discussed on Monday when we talked about the monitoring review, and same methodological as well as frameworks that got raised in the session also applies here. So there are some commonalities that we are also in need of following up. Not necessarily just for the LDCF and SCCF portfolio. I mean, in terms of the specifics, we will do the digging, but there is sort of a corporate level efforts ongoing in terms of looking into that particular issue that I wanted to highlight. Yeah, thank you, Sam, also on the risk issue, as mentioned. We will look into this. Questions from Annette. Additional information on unsatisfactory projects, just I highlighted this. If you think there is more detailed information that you would like to see in here, we will try to incorporate that into the next one, which is fiscal year 23. And also looking into the private sector MDB, if there's any correlation as well as how that is actually boosting performance, we can certainly look into that in here, but also for the progress report, because there are different junctures that we can start to look into these things and report back to you, not necessarily just on the annual monitoring report. I'm gonna ask my colleague Yuki to see if there is any insights we can share at this point on the beneficiaries.
Thank you, Chiz-san. On the question on the number of beneficiaries. So first point, perhaps I would like to remind or highlight is that the from the beginning, expected number of direct beneficiaries for the project. The small ones could be like several hundred, and large one could be in several thousands or nearly millions. So depending on the project, because AMR covers only projects that are under implementation. So once the project reached terminal evaluation, it will be outside of the scope of AMR. So the number of beneficiaries itself fluctuates. And second point is that while the actual number has decreased in terms of achievement ratio, it is not 100%, but still, as I mentioned, it is still at the stable high level of 80%. So that is the second point. And in addition to that, this is perhaps a little bit more general, but we actually did a little bit deeper analysis on the project, which has received relatively low ratings. And some of the factors we have identified for those lower rated projects were, for example, political instability in the country, and as I also mentioned, prolonged COVID-19 impact, negative impact of that, and government capacity and timely recruitment of capable staff, which has continued. So I hope with these 3 points, I have responded to your question.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Just one last comment, and thank you for the comments from Finland, Laura. And if there is any additional information we can provide to help make the case for the LDCF and SCCF to continue to be supported, please do let us know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isu and Yuki, for the responses. Now I would like to call on the council to adopt a draft decision that is included in the document GEF/LDCF SCCF 35/04. And there is no concern, so we consider the draft decision adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Now I will proceed with agenda item number 5, progress report on the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. I would like to invite Mr. Jason Spenceley and Mr. Alok Barnwell to present documents GEF/LDCF SCCF 35/05 progress report on the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Co-Chair, for the opportunity to present the progress report on the LDCF and the SCCF. We will start with the LDCF. The LDCF has continued to progress actively in terms of pledges, receipts, new approvals, and CEO endorsements and approvals. The financial summary presented in this slide is further detailed in the full progress report. We're pleased to share that 204.4 million in new funds were pledged to the LDCF from 8 countries during the period of April 1st to December 31st, 2023. We would like to convey our appreciation to Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, Norway, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden for having pledged new resources to the LDCF during the period. All LDCF projects approved since the inception of this fund are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of 60.79 million people, improve the management of 9.98 million hectares to withstand the effects of climate change, and train 2.26 million people. In addition, 3,193 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, and integrate adaptation strategies and measures. Since the GEF started tracking sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6, 46% of LDCF beneficiaries and 48% of people trained are expected to be female. Additionally, since the LDCF started tracking private sector companies engaged at the beginning of GEF 8, 103 are expected to be engaged in climate change adaptation and resilience action. LDCF projects continue to be focused on a range of sectors. Since inception, the most common sectoral focus is agriculture, followed by water, climate information services, and nature-based solutions. We will now turn to the SCCF. Enabled by a sharpened focusing of the SCCF in the GEF 8 climate change adaptation strategy, we are motivated by the renewed interest in this GEF managed trust fund. 35.0 million in new funds were pledged to a combination of SCCF Windows A for the adaptation priorities of SIDS and SCCF Window B for technology transfer, innovation, and private sector engagement. We are grateful to Canada, Ireland, Spain, and United Kingdom for having pledged new resources to the SCCF during the period of April 1st to December 31st, 2023. On expected results, SCCF projects are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of 8.93 million people, improve the management of 5.17 million hectares to withstand the effects of climate change, and train more than 219,000 people. Additionally, 522 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, and integrate adaptation strategies and measures. Since the GEF started tracking sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6, 47% of SCCF beneficiaries and 46% of people trained are expected to be female. Additionally, since the SCCF started tracking private sector companies engaged at the beginning of GEF 8, 65 are expected to be engaged in climate change adaptation and resilience action. On sector distribution, SCCF projects are focused on a range of sectors. Water, agriculture, and climate information services, as well as nature-based solutions, are the most common focus. As you know, the GEF 8 programming strategy for climate change adaptations includes 3 complementary dedicated programs. All are progressing. In the interest of time, we'll focus on the progress made in the first 2 dedicated programs in this presentation. With the guidance of the Council, the GEF Secretariat has been actively engaging on the communications and visibility of the LDCF and SCCF. In this reporting period, a communication strategy was designed to enhance perceptions of the LDCF and SCCF as key contributors to action on climate change adaptation. Communications products produced during this reporting period include, for example, introductory videos on both the LDCF and the SCCF in English, French, and Spanish. A new overview publication about both funds' contribution to climate adaptation and their role in the broader climate finance architecture. Feature stories on the GEF website and active social media, profiling of the 34th LDCF SCCF Council meeting, and finally, we initiated a climate adaptation thought leadership series to promote the SCCF's highly catalytic Window B on technology transfer, innovation, and private sector engagement. The second dedicated program aims to enhance outreach and capacity support directly for LDCs and SIDS on planning and programming of their LDCF and SCCF resources. A set of regional workshops and meetings have been delivered with engagement of all LDCs on programming the use of their LDCF resources in GEF 8, as well as to enhance country ownership, access, and project design for enhanced adaptation, ambition, and impact. We're delighted that the GEF Secretariat is closely partnered with the LDC group in this program of workshops, as we heard from the LDC chair at the outset of this council meeting. Also importantly, collaboration is ongoing with the Green Climate Fund, including on the joint investment planning efforts in 5 countries in partnership with the Task Force on Access to Climate Finance. 4 regional workshops were held during or shortly after this reporting period. The first was for 16 African Francophone LDCs and Haiti, held in Dakar, Senegal. And this workshop was closely co-hosted by the LDC chair. The second was held in Siem Reap in Cambodia for 5 Asian LDCs. And we're very grateful to the Ministry of Environment of the Government of Cambodia for hosting this workshop. I understand the alternate council member from Cambodia, Ms. Somali Chan, will share her insights right after this presentation. Next, there was a convening of 4 Pacific LDCs in Honiara, Solomon Islands. And finally, 17 African Anglophone and Lusophone LDCs convened in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We're also looking forward to holding 2 similar workshops for SIDS who are not LDCs on strategy and programming of their SCCF Window A resources, one of which will be in Dominican Republic for the Caribbean, the week of March 11th, and the other in the Pacific shortly thereafter. It is now my pleasure to hand over to my colleague, Alok Barnwal.
Thank you, Jason. I would now briefly share some relevant outcomes of the COP28 in relations to the LDCF and SCCF. This slide that you see summarizes 4 key relevant COP28 outcomes. Let me start with the first global stocktake or GST. It was, as you know, one of the main outcomes of the COP. The GST decision text captured the LDCF SCCF pledging event and welcomed the pledges made by the donor countries. I have the next slide to share more details about the event. In addition, the GST outcome also urges contributors to fulfill their pledges in a timely manner and invited the contributors to ensure the sustainability of the resources of the fund. Next is the guidance to the GEF. The guidance commended the LDCF and SCCF for their adaptation support to developing countries, in particular the LDCs and SIDS. The guidance also welcomed with appreciation the financial pledges made by donor countries at the COP. It further requested LDCF and SCCF to continue to support LDCs and SIDS and utilize programmatic approaches to implement policies, programs, and projects identified there in their NAPs and adaptation components of NDCs. Third, the outcome around global goal on adaptation. parties adopted the UAE framework for global climate resilience that contains adaptation targets to be achieved by 2030. The framework is very well aligned with the current GEF 8 adaptation strategy, especially the thematic priorities. It also provides guidance for formulating future adaptation strategy. For example, the outcome of discussions on indicators for measuring progress towards the adaptation targets will inform the GEF 9 adaptation strategy. Finally, the item on LDC matters. Deeply appreciated the work of the LDCF in organizing the sub-regional adaptation workshops for LDCs, which my colleague Jason just presented. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the previous slide, at the COP, a ministerial dialogue and pledging session for LDCF and SCCF was organized on December 4th. The event generated new pledges of nearly 180 million, of which nearly 145 million are for the LDCF and around 35 million are for the SCCF. We are grateful to Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, Norway, Spain, and Sweden for their LDCF pledges. We are also grateful for the re-engagement of donors in the SCCF, especially, namely Canada, UK, Spain, and Ireland. In addition, at the event, Denmark, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and United States expressed their strong political support to the two funds. At the event, ministers from 5 recipient countries, Malawi, Uganda, South Sudan, Senegal, and Samoa, voiced their appreciation of the LDCF and SCCF support to their countries. The session was very well moderated by Ms. Madeleine Diop-Star, the previous LDC chair, and Ms. Samantha Justin, our council member for Caribbean constituency, who is with us today in this meeting. We deeply appreciated the pledges. We sincerely hope that contributions continue to be made and even increase, given that countries are ready to program the funds, as evident from the sizable work program that you just approved. After the successful regional adaptation workshops, we expect that countries have now enhanced capacities to develop more and impactful projects in a timely manner for their urgent adaptation needs. Next slide, please. And this will be my final slide. This is just to share with you the progress on the Inclusive GEF Assembly Challenge Program, which was presented in the previous council meetings. As you know, the program was developed in run-up to the 7th GEF Assembly in Vancouver, Canada last year. It's an effort to reflect GEF's inclusive approach and commitment to engage with civil society organizations, Indigenous peoples, youth, and other community groups in delivering the GEF's vision of healthy planet and healthy people. The Secretariat last year selected 23 winners of the challenge program in close consultation with the constituencies and through a diverse selection committee. They are from CSOs doing impactful work on climate resilience and environmental conservation globally across different regions. These winners were announced at the 7th GEF Assembly in Vancouver, which presented them a great opportunity to connect with the entire GEF partnership. In terms of the latest status, UNIDO as the GEF agency is currently in the process of developing 2 medium-sized projects funded by the SCCF and LDCF, which will enable transfer of the grants to these winners and also implementation of activities on the ground. We appreciate the support of countries and the operational focal points in preparing these projects. An information document has been provided showcasing the progress made on this program. So this concludes my presentation. And as mentioned by Jason, it's our pleasure to invite Ms. Somali Chan, Undersecretary of State of the Ministry of Environment of Cambodia, and also alternate council member, to share her perspectives on the regional adaptation workshop for Asian LDCs that was kindly hosted by her ministry in Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alok.
Thank you to the co-chair and the GEF Secretariat for offering me the opportunity to share my view on the recent LDCF workshop. I am speaking from my perspective of an alternate council member representing the Kingdom of Cambodia and as someone who actively participated in the LCF strategy and programming workshop for ASEAN LDC, which took place in my country. Cambodia was proud to co-host this workshop with the GEF Secretariat in the beautiful and historic city of Siem Reap in September 2023, especially because it provides a crucial opportunity to assist Cambodia and other LDC in the ASEAN region in planning to ensure full access to the LCF in the GEF age and strategically utilizing those valuable resources for maximizing climate adaptation impacts. The $20 million allocation from the LCF for each less developed country is a vital component for climate adaptation strategy and ensuring its implementation at the ground level. This fund serves as the cornerstone in our effort to safeguard vulnerable community and ecosystem from the growing impact of climate change. It is important that utilize this resource widely and strategically to address the challenge we face. While leveraging this fund effectively, we can ensure our resilience to climate-related risks and strengthen the adaptive capacity for our community. Furthermore, those funds significantly contribute to promoting local livelihood development through initiatives such as agriculture, diversification, ecosystem resilience, renewable energy project, climate resilient infrastructure. Therefore, this workshop serves as a vital platform for designing and implementing LDCF projects to fit the specific needs of national and local community, hereby optimizing their impacts on both climate adaptation and livelihood development. Additionally, it provides a valuable opportunity for countries to exchange climate adaptation challenge, priority, and solution with each other at substantive technical levels. We understand that there is much more for us to explore together. The range of need and sector for climate adaptation is huge, and technological advancement are rapidly progressing. Looking ahead, it is crucial to organizing thematic in-depth technical assessment focused on key climate adaptation priority and solution for our country and region. For instance, in Cambodia, ensuring financial inclusion and microfinance for the resilient for smallholder farmer stand as a crucial aspect. Moreover, we recognize numerous opportunities to enhance resilience through the integration of AIs in developing climate resilient food system. Moving forward, we aspire to explore further into this technical solution through collaborative technical sessions alongside other interest countries. Finally, I would like to extend my deepest thanks once again to the GEF Secretariat, especially Madame Aoki Chisuru and her team for their outstanding support and delivering comprehensive information, guidance, and direction for the effective utilization of the LDCF fund. Their proactive engagement with country which is more active than ever before. Has been commendable and instrumental in ensuring the strategic utilization of LDCF and SCCF resources. Thank you.
Thanks so much to you, Somali. We were very excited to be in Siem Reap
GEF Secretariat, and your support for this very important workshop is highly appreciated. Also, I got a unique opportunity to invite my co-chair who assisted to another workshop, this one in Ethiopia. So I would like to pass the floor to my co-chair who will give us a report on that other workshop in Indonesia. Dauda, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair, and then also it's a pleasure to share my thoughts on that workshop that happens from the 2nd to the 5th of October in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Basically, I want to thank the GEF Secretariat for giving that region, after the Anglophone and Lusophone countries, the opportunity to gather together to share on certain aspects with the guidance of the GEF Secretariat on project implementation, programming, and from my perspective, because I was there as an operational focal point for Gambia, and then coincidentally, I was also there as a, not necessarily, but I was there as an alternate council member for the Sahel. So I was also given the opportunity to share my perspective to all the colleagues present. But more importantly, it is that kind of a workshop is very essential for the region because it gives the region the opportunity to learn from each other and also the best practices and also share some of the challenges that we collectively can actually address. And also give the opportunity for other countries who have implemented similar projects to showcase the successes that have been done and how are they able to do those successes. And by providing those opportunities, I think that was a best learning curve for most of those colleagues. Yes, you may have a little challenges in different implementation, but in reality, when a problem is shared, there's likely that problem will be solved because you have different perspective on those aspects. So as a country, in fact, I was also given the opportunity also to showcase in some of the successes that we have with respect to one of the coastal resilience project that we implemented successfully. And that was actually a learning curve. I was given a station sort of where people will come and then we actually explain how we are able to succeed. And that project was more of a big litmus test for the country and the region. And then we are pleased to have really achieved what is expected of us in terms of project implementation. So CEO, I would like to thank the team and the GEF Secretariat for giving that region that opportunity to really learn from each other and also to think the best ways on how we can actually utilize these funds as per the project targets and objective. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
Thanks to you, to Somali, to Alok, and Jason for the presentation of the progress report. With this, I would like to open the floor for questions and comments to council members.
Thank you very much, Andre, for breaking the ice. Here we go.
Thank you very much. We welcome the report and would like to thank the Secretariat for the preparation of the report. And we would like to highlight one particular aspect, namely the Inclusive GEF Assembly Challenge Program for Adaptation Innovation, as described in the respective progress report that's presented by the Secretariat. This program, which builds on its successful predecessor, can certainly be called a flagship program.
It is a community-based approach of providing support to civil society organizations, generates high environmental impact and GEB, and ensures sustainability with limited financial resources. The program incorporates several of the factors that contribute to project success, as we have heard on several occasions over the past days. The large number of applicants is a further proof of its importance and necessity. In light of past days' discussions, we might have wished to see a larger number of initiatives targeting primarily youth. But as many of the initiatives are cross-cutting, we assume that they are likely to also benefit youth. We think that it is precisely this cross-cutting characteristic of the initiative that confirms the relevance of an integrated approach at all levels. And finally, as regards next steps, we encourage the remaining 7 OFP to provide their letters of endorsement as soon as possible in order for UNIDO to submit the MSP for CO endorsement and unlock the funding to the initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sam, you have the floor.
The UK is pleased to support the SCCF SIDS window with our initial pledge at COP27 and a further pledge at COP28. This window is a top priority for the UK. And briefly on communications, I've personally found the videos on the LDCF and SCCF to be very useful in educating my colleagues about these funds, and certainly a welcome alternative to sharing a document as they are far more engaging. So appreciate the work that's been done there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Samantha, you have the floor. Sorry, Annette was next in line. So it's your turn.
Okay. Germany highly welcomes this progress report for the LDCF and SCCF, which provides a valuable overview of portfolio performance in a very transparent and comparable manner. We do appreciate this data-driven approach. Considering the eligibility of countries to receive support for National Adaptation Plan formulation from the Green Climate Fund, Germany welcomes the focused LDCF support for implementation of the NAP processes, which totaled more than $60 million as of September last year. I think that's a very good demonstration of how these the strengths of these various multilateral funds can actually interact. Germany appreciates the continued efforts taken by the GEF Secretariat to increase its visibility within stories and mentions in media by developing a targeted communication strategy, which will surely lead to a further increase in LDCF and SCCF outreach. Germany is looking forward to hearing about impacts and results of the new communication strategy during the upcoming council meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette. Now, yes, Samantha, you have the floor.
We wish to thank the GEF Secretariat for the progress report and express our gratitude to the countries that continue to make funding available under the 2 funds. We are encouraged that the projects under the SCCF window recorded improved performance with significant levels of co-financing. We note that the SCCF window B, which is focused on technology transfer and innovation, remains under-resourced. We therefore strongly urge countries to pledge to the SCCF, for without this critical support to SIDS, our national efforts to increase adaptive capacity in a truly real and meaningful way and protect the lives and livelihoods, especially of the most vulnerable among us, will be severely diminished. We also call on the GEF agencies to be more proactive in supporting SIDS in accessing funds under the SCCF window. We note and welcome the much needed upcoming regional adaptation workshop for Caribbean SIDS, which will take place in the Dominican Republic. We cannot overemphasize the importance and value added from such opportunities to strengthen SIDS national capacities to access the SCCF window, to develop projects which ultimately result in enhancing SIDS adaptation efforts. We therefore hope that such capacity building workshops will be undertaken on a more regular basis and look forward to presenting on the upcoming workshop at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Emily, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. And also many thanks to the presentations and specifically also to hear from the perspectives from the regional LDC engagement workshops. Like others, our constituency also welcomes the progress report, which provides really valuable overview. And also just like Switzerland, we would like to echo our specific support to the LDCF SCCF challenge program. And I just have one question regarding the funding status. If you could just share some light on where we currently stand in terms of contributions to both funds vis-a-vis the funding needs that are needed to provide support to all LDCs and SIDS per their full allocation. Thank you.
Thank you. Baba Adram, vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup, William. Je voudrais également féliciter le secrétariat pour l'élaboration de ce rapport de progrès sur le LDCF et le SCCF. Et encore une fois, adresser nos sincères remerciements et félicitations au secrétariat du FEM pour tout le travail qui est en train d'être fait pour faciliter l'accès à ces fonds. Dans le rapport, il a été rappelé l'activité organisée au Sénégal du 24 au 27 avril 2003 à l'intention des pays francophones, des pays LDC francophones. Parce que vous le savez, depuis jusqu'à décembre dernier, le Sénégal a présidé le groupe des paiements dans le cadre des négociations sur les changements climatiques et c'était pour nous un grand honneur de recevoir tous nos frères et sœurs francophones pour échanger sur ces deux fenêtres de financement du FEM. Donc cet atelier a été d'une très grande importance parce que comme vous le savez, aujourd'hui la langue de travail au niveau du FEM c'est l'anglais. Et les autres pays, notamment les pays francophones, en réalité sont confrontés à un problème de biais linguistique. Tous les documents sont des documents en anglais. Toutes les discussions, globalement, c'est des discussions en anglais. Ce qui fait que ça peut être un facteur, n'est-ce pas, un blocage dans le cadre de la compréhension des documents de base sur lesquels on doit travailler pour présenter les projets au fond. Donc, cet atelier a été véritablement un moyen, en tout cas, de contribuer à lever cette difficulté et à permettre aux pays francophones d'avoir une meilleure compréhension justement de ce mécanisme, comment on accède au fond, la formulation des projets, les procédures. C'est pour moi vraiment le lieu de remercier le FEM et particulièrement Madame Chizuru qui a fait de son mieux en tout cas pour organiser cette rencontre et permettre à nos pays d'être davantage capacités. Ce que nous suggérons, c'est que ce travail de renforcement de capacité-là puisse se poursuivre parce que ce que nous attendons, c'est que les pays donateurs puissent davantage accompagner le LDCF et le SCCF. Et pour cela, il faut davantage de renforcement de capacité au niveau des pays qui parlent les langues outre que l'anglais pour être aussi performants et en tout cas lever ces biais linguistiques qui constituent un frein à la formulation et à la mise en œuvre des projets du FEM. Merci.
Thank you very much. That seems to end the list of speakers. So back to you, sir.
Thank you so much, William, and thanks, council members, for your comments and questions. I will proceed asking Jason, Chisan, Locke to react to comments or to answer the questions that were presented.
Thank you so much to the council members for your encouraging comments. I'd like to ask Alok first to highlight the youth elements related to the challenge program, because we have some numbers we can share with you.
Yeah. Thank you. And first of all, thanks for the support for the special passion initiative that we launched last year to showcase our commitment to work with civil society and local communities in our goal. In terms of when we selected the projects, the selection committee, we considered different aspects of, who we are targeting, both in terms of beneficiaries as well as who are going to lead these projects. And in that consideration, we kept youth as one of the key considerations. And as you can see in the information document that we have provided, there is a figure which shows the distribution of initiative across targeted beneficiaries. In that, there are two projects which are targeting youth specifically, and there are 5 more projects which are intersectional in nature, engaging youth as well. So overall, around 31% of the initiators are related to youth, either directly or in a way that engages with them during the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. So let me try to answer some of the questions and then pass it over to my colleague, Jason. So there was a specific question on, I think it was from Emily from Denmark, in terms of how we're doing in terms of the resource mobilization. So just to remind, for the LDCF, there were 2 scenarios that council approved for the GEF 8 period. The lower scenario was $1 billion, and the higher scenario was $1.3 billion. As of now, we have done the programming for $252 million. So for the next remaining GEF 8 period, we would expect to do programming of a little shy of $752 million. For the SCCF, the lowercase scenario was $200 million. The higher case scenario, financial scenario for GEF 8 was $400 million. Programming so far is approximately $27 million. Of course, I am not reflecting the administrative budget and other elements. So we are looking at least close to $160, $170 million of programming to be done within the SCCF moving forward. We'd be happy to provide a little bit more refined analysis on this one if there are any particular interest on this issue. And just to highlight that at this juncture, it's not the question of lack of interest from countries. It is, we do have quite a bit of interest from countries that want to access these 2 funds, as evidenced by the robust work program, as well as feedback we have gotten from countries. Looking at some more additional comments, we really appreciate your strong support and recognition of the Inclusive Adaptation Challenge Program from a couple council members. As Alok said, this has been a passion project for us. The resources have been somewhat modest. And to be honest, in the GEF 8 LDCF, SCCF programming, we hadn't actually specifically included the Inclusive Adaptation Challenge Program. We did have something that would be sort of akin to that kind of support, and with the support from Canada, we're able to do this, and having the inclusion as one of the key themes for the assembly really helped us to launch this. And I really hope there are opportunities for us to do more of this kind of efforts, because it's very exciting for us to be able to engage with initiatives from youth, women, girls, as well as IPLCs that might be outside the typical GEF networks, and having this kind of opportunity for anyone to access resources is even at the small scale, I think is a good opportunity to really enhance and rejuvenate further the GEF partnership. Thank you, Annette, for the recognition of the collaboration we have between the GEF and GCF when it comes to the NAP implementation, NAP preparation. I think it's very well now understood among countries as well as the agencies and as well as the two funds. So we will move forward on that particular element further. And you had requested additional information on the impact of the communication efforts. We are actually gathering data and results on the outreach efforts, and we will continue to do so, and eventually we should be able to start drawing lessons learned from those efforts. Thank you, UK, for your encouraging words about the use of videos. I'm really glad that it's serving a purpose. A little bit unintended that it could be a sort of purpose to share among your colleagues, but I'm very happy that that is actually serving that particular purpose, and thank you for letting us know about that. Samantha, we very much appreciate you stepping up to the plate to be the co-facilitator for the pledging session we had in Dubai, along with the LDC chair. And I think your presence as well as your statement right here does underscore that the CIS are ready to engage and CIS are ready to access resources for adaptation. And we really do hope that there will be opportunities for us to be able to support more projects. And thank you for your reflections on the need for more hands-on workshops as well as targeted capacity building efforts. And we hope that the next time we have the progress report, we can report more on the workshop that we're going to have in the Caribbean that's coming up that Jason mentioned. That's with the ECW of the GEF Trust Fund. So, over to you, Jason, on FOCA.
Okay. May I give the floor to Karen before you go on, since she wanted to come in?
Thank you. Sorry, I had a follow-up question to the information she's relating to the programming level. Is it possible to have to say something about the funding gap, because is all funds programmed for, or is there a gap available resources contra what we need for the full period? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So for the LDCF SCCF Council, the trustee has actually submitted the updated information on for this particular council. And the information that is provided as of December 31st, 2023. So what we can do is before the next council, there will be another round of trustee reports, and we can provide you with a little bit more updated report on the where we are, what we have, and what we need to do to get to the end of GEF 8 with all countries being supported.
Thank you very much, co-chair. Thank you, Chiz. First, specifically on the point of the videos, I'd just like to also highlight that those are importantly available in multiple languages. I will now change to French and beg your indulgence, parce que j'aimerais beaucoup remercier à M. Babadram de Sénégal pour signaler l'importance fondamentale de communication entre le secrétariat et les pays dans plusieurs langues. Et c'était vraiment un honneur et toute une opportunité de faire l'atelier à Dakar en français et d'avoir l'opportunité de communiquer directement avec entre le secrétariat et les points focaux et les équipes des points focaux en français dans ce cas-là, et on espère que dans l'atelier à République dominicaine, c'est clair en espagnol avec des pays dans les Caraïbes qui parlent plutôt espagnol. Alors, merci beaucoup pour signaler cette importance, M. Babadram, et juste une réflexion sur l'importance de cette opportunité d'échange direct entre le secrétariat
et les points focaux, les pays. Vraiment, comme fonctionnaire du secrétariat, c'est vraiment toute une opportunité d'avoir cet échange direct pour mieux aider à améliorer les projets, à fortifier les projets et les capacités. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Jason. Et encore merci, Monsieur Bavadois, mais pour organiser l'atelier régional. D'accord. I think that's about we can do to respond to the questions. Back to you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much to both. Thanks to the members of the council for their observations and questions. So with this, I would like to invite the council to adopt the draft decision that is included in the document GEF/LDCF SCCF 35/05. I see nobody asking for the floor. Approved. Thank you so much. Now I'll pass it over to my colleague William, who will be guiding us with two additional agenda items that in principle we have it for after lunch, but I think we have enough time before lunch to do it. Over to you, William, please.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. Yes, these don't have much substance to them this time around, so we can use the time left to wrap them up. First one was other business. Nobody made any requests to include any item under other business, nor does the Secretariat have any. You actually had, yes, you're correct, right? You had asked for the floor, so why don't we give you the floor? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and for the indulgence. The thing is that I don't want to just leave us with the impression that the IEO is ignoring LDCF and SCCF. I personally am as happy as anybody in this room for the rejuvenation of these funds and the second largest work program ever. And we have a dedicated team in the IEO that works on LDCF, SCCF, headed by Navid, who is sitting here by the side of the room. So I just wanted to say that, you know, we had I know that most of the people are probably the same in the council as they are in the GEF Trust Fund Council, but there's a few of you who may have missed my presentation the day before yesterday. So we did an evaluation of the climate information and early warning systems that started as a LDCF SCCF focused evaluation, but then we realized that we had a lot of trust fund, multi-trust fund projects. So we presented it as part of our overall evaluation. But this is a very important topic for the GEF and for both also to the LDCF, SCCF. I don't want to repeat, obviously, what I said day before yesterday, but just mention the fact that we reported the high relevance of these projects. 92% of the projects that we looked into were rated as satisfactory in the outcome ratings, and 88% were rated as sustainable. We also reported that several projects supported the installation of automated weather stations, and there were issues related to the operation and maintenance of these systems at completion. So the critical last mile challenge does persist in service delivery, particularly in the distribution of climate information and warnings to local communities that are often marginalized by disaster risk reduction strategies. We had also 3 recommendations in this evaluation on aligning indicators with good practices, exploring strategies for financial sustainability, and the need for shifting focus from solely providing early warning information to fostering early actions during disaster events. That evaluation is available on the website and on amongst the documentation for the main council, and I'm sure that my colleague Anna will be tremendously delighted to provide any detailed answers to any questions you may have. I also want to mention just that that we do the annual evaluation report of the 2 funds, the LDCF and SCCF funds, and we shall bring the next one to you in the June council meetings. And we have noted some of the questions that have come in the discussions regarding, for example, agency concentration and risk, and we will include these into the annual evaluation report that we will bring to you in the next council. So thank you for your indulgence. Thank you very much, Juha. And well, actually, I take advantage to say I saw many of you taking pictures of the screens. The full presentations will be on the website. So on the same page as documents, you just roll further down and you'll find the presentations there. So if you're interested, that's where you can find it. Okay, I don't see anybody asking for the floor. So then we have simply the announcements, just as with the GEF Trust Fund. The joint summary of the chairs of this council will be circulated to you, and we will consider them tomorrow afternoon after we finish the GBFF. We'll go through the 3 summaries of the co-chairs, and at that time will be the end of the meeting. Now, since we finished a little early, you are let off early, but we still come back at 2 o'clock. Okay, so the lunch will be coming. Maybe it's not already set up, but it will be coming soon. Enjoy the time, and we'll see you back at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.